The gaming industry has really been plagued with controversy in the last 2 weeks, and to try and make sense of what's been happening, I'm joined in studio by Laura Shortridge, who's a Women24 writer and a gamer herself. Thanks so much for joining me.
Pleasure, thank you.
Now, what has been happening? Because for those of us who aren't in the gaming scene, the last 2 weeks, our Twitter feeds have just lit up with what's been called Gamergate.
Okay, it all really started with two major controversies. One is the famous feminist video blogger Anita Sarkeesian, who runs the web Feminist Frequency, which criticizes the certain sexist tropes in games. She released her latest video and was sent multiple death threats until she had to actually leave her house if she felt at risk. This is not the first time it's happened. She's received severe misogynistic sort of treatment from gamers who are overly sensitive about the fact that she's doing feminist criticism of games. The other was the game developer Zoe Quinn. Her ex-boyfriend, who was a very messy breakup, and he recently published a blog where he includes private messages between them where it talks about how she cheated on him and it talks about her sex life. And the blog makes there's a lot of claims that have been made from this blog where people are saying, because at least one of the people she slept with is within the gaming industry, people are saying she's sleeping around to get good reviews for her games, and that she's, that basically there's this now big conspiracy in the gaming industry where feminists are using sex to get their points of view across. So there was incredible amounts of anger and hatred and misogyny being thrown around towards these two women, and anyone who was concerned about it was obviously very upset. So that's probably what you've been hearing. But Gamergate itself is about the accusations of actual corruption within the gaming industry, suggesting that while a lot of the original complaints against Zoe Quinn have been turned out to be very much baseless and that kind of thing, there's still a certain amount of cronyism in the gaming industry that people are concerned about, and people want to. So what you've got now with Gamergate is you've got people who are genuinely worried that especially game journalism is corrupt, and then you've got people who are just angry that there's a feminist voice in gaming at all and who want to shut it down.
Okay, so there are two separate issues here. The one is the feminist issue, and the other is the fact that there could potentially be corruption in gaming journalism.
Yes, and then there's the social justice warrior issue, which is a insult thrown at people who talk about feminism and diversity in games and that kind of thing, are accused of being social justice warriors who are only talking about these things for attention. And the problem with this insult is obviously there's nothing wrong with social justice, so it makes the whole Gamergate very bizarre. I mean, it's hard to take it seriously in certain ways, especially since a lot of the leaders of Gamergate and the forerunners are very openly anti-feminist, sometimes even misogynist, you know, sort of people who are against diversity and against basically people trying to act like decent human beings, and they are very loud voices in this thing. So from that perspective, a lot of people are very suspicious of Gamergate because of this undertones of misogyny that it carries. However, there are those, the problem with Gamergate is, this is sort of the timeline. First you had these misogynistic attacks on these women. Then you had journalists together speaking out against this. Then you had accusations that there's cronyism in the journalists, that the only reason the journalists are speaking out against this is because they're part of this big conspiracy to force a feminist agenda and that kind of thing.
Wouldn't that be wonderful if people were trying to force some type of feminist agenda?
It's actually quite hilarious because they carry with them this idea that there's something wrong with feminism, that you have to actually conspire to force it, that people don't just, you know, support it because it's a good thing. It's not just about feminism as well. There's also representation of other races in gaming, representation of other sexual orientations in gaming. Gaming has traditionally been a focus on white males, and the thing is, that's not the audience anymore. White males are part of the audience, and they never won't be, but there are more people in the audience. So those people, like me as a female gamer, we're concerned about issues within games. I want to know, is this storyline like are there sexist problems within this game? Is this game going to allow me to play a woman? Is this game going to acknowledge my existence or acknowledge that, you know, not everyone is basically a straight white male? And that matters to me. But then when reviewers actually mention that, and they do, you get these people, these straight white male gamers who go, and it's not all straight white male gamers, it's just some of them, who go, but I don't care about that, so you shouldn't put that in. And they insist this is corruption and this is forcing an agenda. And anyway,